Hi, I'm Jack, and I'll be your presenter. This presentation describes an action research project designed to change study habits of Cambodian university students. The purpose of this action research is to identify methods to encourage students to prepare for their lessons so they can raise their level of comprehension, more actively participate in classroom discussions, and ultimately improve overall performance. In Cambodia, primary and secondary schools are not demanding. Many teenagers entering Cambodian universities have never been given homework, nor have they been required to prepare for lessons. As a result, students taking my business courses believe that class preparation is unnecessary. Without diligently preparing, students exhibit difficulty in grasping newly introduced concepts. They are so confused by classroom discussions that they don't even know what questions to ask. Research questions served multiple purposes. First, they had to confirm the underlying premise of the research. Students were asked if they prepared for class, and if so, how often, and if they don't prepare, why not? The next set of questions were geared to understanding student motivational factors. What can be changed in the instructional design to encourage them to prepare? Scholarly articles were reviewed, seeking previously performed research on the study habits of university students. 3 relevant articles were uncovered and analyzed. The first study by Albers et al. Used focus groups to solicit student comments about lesson preparation. Second research paper, authored by Vansberger and Duncan Daston, is a study that provides a tool for students to use as a means of preparing for their social work lessons. The study evaluated the use of study guide to hold students accountable for the reading of textbook assignments prior to attending class. The third article discussed quasi-experimental research performed by Ryan, comparing 3 strategies for motivating students to prepare for their lessons: quizzes, study guides with feedback, and study guides without feedback. With adequate time to analyze the problem, this action research would have begun with focus groups, 6 to 10 students per group, collecting data about behaviors, attitudes, and motivation as it pertains to lesson preparation. However, time constraints meant that data had to be collected in an expedited manner, so organizing, conducting, and analyzing their outcomes was not a viable option. Instead, interviews were conducted with other instructors at the university. Interviews were then conducted with the students in 2 of my ongoing classes. The feedback from the 2 interviews formed the basis for a student questionnaire. The responses to the questionnaire were analyzed. Then a plan of action was formulated. As mentioned earlier, data was first collected by having one-on-one interviews with instructors and with students. These open-ended interviews narrowed the scope of inquiry, leading to a questionnaire with a series of focused, close-ended questions. The questionnaire was distributed to my statistics and quantitative methods students. 39 students provided responses. The results show that only about 15% of students study with the intention of understanding the materials. Most students who indicated they don't prepare stated that they don't have time. But more than 78% said that studying would benefit their performance in class. The literature reviews and student interviews identified 4 possible interventions for motivating students to study. 3 of those methods received the same 65.8% student approval: assigned study groups, graded group assignments, and graded individual assignments. Since the results of the questionnaire make it difficult to distinguish a clear preference, a follow-up questionnaire was distributed, again to statistics and quantitative method students. There were 3 close-ended questions on this survey. The response to the first question indicate a clear preference for assigned study groups. The results of the second question show that more than 2/3 of students would be motivated by study groups. The third question students on their overall motivation, and more than 81% said good grades were important to them. The interviews and questionnaires provided qualitative responses to open and close-ended questions. The responses were then quantified, determining the frequency and frequency percentages for each answer. The analysis indicates a clear preference for study groups as the method of choice to encourage students to prepare for their lesson. It may not be enough to assign students to study groups if there's not sufficient motivation to participate. In order to add additional stimulus, each study group will be given a set of questions and studying materials about the upcoming lessons. Group members will be required to present the answers to the question during the next class. These group activities will be graded. In the past, graded group assignments had a very high level of participation, so it is expected that these presentations will achieve positive results. To carry out the action plan, quasi-experimental research will be conducted. In the upcoming semester, 3 identical courses in accounting will be taught at 2 Phnom Penh universities by the same instructor. One of the classes will be established as the experimental group. The other 2 will be control groups. The experimental class will be divided into study groups. Students in the experimental group will be monitored. This will take the form of periodic questionnaires, observations in classroom discussions, and assessment results. Various forms of data will be collected. Comparisons will be drawn between the experimental group and the control groups to determine if there was noticeable difference in classroom behavior or in overall performance. When evaluating results and student feedback, it is critical to understand of any student problems. Do they understand their task? Are the assignment questions clearly defined? Is the accompanying course content useful? Any need for revision will be applied to the subsequent semester. Before discussing force field analysis, the goal of the action plan is identified as improving student preparation for accounting lessons. It also lists 4 objectives. Students will demonstrate regular participation in study groups, attain a deeper understanding of lesson concepts, be encouraged to participate more actively in class discussions, and achieve better assessment results. Force field analysis is made up of driving forces and restraining forces, which contribute to and detract from the goal, respectively. Success of this action plan will depend on students' willingness to take part in the plan and contribute to its success. By including graded presentations as motivation, this should give students the impetus to succeed. Group members must work together to achieve a productive outcome. Peer pressures imposed by group members will encourage all members to contribute. When students realize that their studying activities have led to greater comprehension and better grades, they will be further stimulated to continue the process. On the restraining side, there may be conflicts in the schedules of group members, making it impossible to find a convenient time for everyone to meet. To overcome this problem, various forms of internet connection will be suggested, allowing students to participate by Skype, WhatsApp, Messenger, or any of the other online communication apps. Confusion in the course materials or instruction may prevent the study group from completing their assignment. A process must be put in place for groups to contact the instructor through a discussion board and receive a reasonably prompt response. Differences in aptitudes may alienate the poorer performing students. This can be resolved if each member in the group has to present during class. If the success of the group depends on the success of all its members, the good students will want to help the poor students to succeed. During the action research study, various forms of data will be collected. At the start of each lesson, each group will individually present the answers to questions in their study guides. Students will be observed during class discussion, noting if behavior between classes is noticeable. Students in the experimental group will be given periodic questionnaires to get feedback on the intervention. Assessment results will be analyzed to see if the performance of the experimental group is noticeably different than control group results. Focus groups will be conducted at the end of the semester for the experimental group members to get their reaction to the new methodology. In conclusion, for Cambodian students to attain a world-class university education, their study habits must evolve. This study proposes a method of intervention. It further discusses a plan of action. This study is narrowly focused on preparing students for class and seeks methods to positively alter student behavior. Lastly, it is proposed that any results coming out of this action plan promote additional interventions that continue to improve the level of education. That marks the end of this presentation. Thank you for your time and attention.